Hello, welcome back. Let's talk about the Vampire Lestat. This is technically season 3 of Interview with the Vampire, the show on AMC based on the Anne Rice books. We talked about the show on this channel. You can check out the playlist somewhere on the channel. And it's like one of my favorite shows. I really like this stuff. I really like these vampires. They're really cool. I love them. And so I'm really excited about this new season. And I watched the premiere last night of season 3, retitled as The Vampire Lestat, because that's the book. The book, the sequel book, the second book in the series is called The Vampire Lestat. It's about Lestat. So we're going to get into like spoilery stuff almost right away in regards to the first episode as I scrub through and I'm just going to talk as we scrub through whatever's on my mind about it, and as I usually do, and but I haven't I'm not like a book reader. I mean, I do read books. I didn't read all the books. I read the first book. I read Interview with the Vampire after I finished the series, like was it 2024? Yeah, like a couple years ago, the second season came out. And I read that, and I actually listened to the audiobook recently to get refreshed. And then I started the Vampire Lestat audiobook. So I only did the first chapter. It was really an intro chapter, like the forward chapter. But I watched the Queen of the Dam movie a long time ago. That's kind of also based on this. It's mostly based on Queen of the Dam, but actually the idea is that this story, The Vampire Lestat, is kind of like a two-parter, because the second part is it leads into Queen of the Dam. Anyways, that's all this book lore that I vaguely know about, but I don't know enough about to really spoil too much. But I'm gonna try to like read along as I watch this first season. I suspect that they're gonna break this up into 2 seasons for the Vampire Lestat, kind of like they did with the Interview with the Vampire, first 2 seasons, and with the first book, and then they'll go into Queen of the Dam. But they're mixing stuff up. We've already seen that in the first couple seasons. They updated the timeline. I'm assuming you've watched the first season. If you're watching this, I'm assuming you've watched the Interview with the Vampire. Although I feel like it's kind of like designed to like kind of attract new audiences. And I do like how they renamed the show Vampire Lestat to match the books. I think that's pretty cool. Instead of just calling it season 3. Although technically, I think on like IMDb and Wikipedia, different places, it's still listed under the same name of Interview with the Vampire season 3. But anyways, but I feel like that's also a marketing thing for them, because this is speculation. Because like it's kind of known that like the people, like the viewership dies off for series after like season 2. That's why Netflix only makes like 2 seasons of a show and then they quit. And so I feel like they're like, oh yeah, let's just name it a new name. That way people will think it's a new show. Get new people in there. Because some people are like, most people are like, I don't want to watch. I'm not gonna watch season 3 of a show. I gotta watch the first season, and then they end up never continuing because it's like 20 hours of TV, and so. And the things that this is like a whole new tone almost. So it's almost kind of like a new show, but not really. But really, you should watch the first few seasons if you haven't. They're really good. They're really good. So let's get into it. We're gonna scrub through, see what and I'm gonna blurt out my thoughts as we go along. Again, reiterating here the previously on. Okay, so other thing about this show on AMC, how they release the show is a little awkward, at least for season 2, in the terms of there's different versions. There's 2 versions. There's the TV version, and then there's the one on AMC Plus. I think it's the same one, but they have okay, so here's the thing. So the first season, when it was released on AMC Plus, it was like uncut, and then later on they split it up to a cut version and an uncut version. And then for season 2, what they were doing is they released on AMC Plus the edited version that was on TV as well as on streaming, and then the uncut version was available on like buying it through Amazon, I believe. It was all confusing, and it's like they didn't really, telegraph really what they were doing, and not many people knew about this because like even though the AMC Plus version that a lot of people watched, like they had a lot of swears and curses and but then they didn't show like there's like female presenting nipples and stuff, and then some scenes, there was even a scene where like Lestat calls Armand a cunt that was cut out, and then so basically it was like little snippets here and there, but then later on they released the uncut version on AMC Plus, I think. And then what's currently on Netflix, this is something to know, is the first season on Netflix of Interview Vampire is the uncut, unedited version, but then the second season is the TV version. And so one way to tell pretty much is that they have like commercial breaks, right? So for the TV version, so there's like these cut to black moments where like they obviously that's where the commercial is supposed to go. And so that kind of disrupts the flow, and I talked about this when I was talking about season 2 last couple years, 2 years ago. And so with this season, and then of course, like if you get the Blu-ray, it's like the full version. So just like be conscious of that if you're going back to see the previous seasons. And this new season now, the Vampire Lestat show, I'm not sure what's going on. It could be that it's just going to be one version from now on, and they're not going to split it up. But I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to if they release a uncut, blood and boobs version or something in the future. So that's a bit unfortunate because I feel like if that's what's going to happen, which may probably happen, because it's not so much about the gore and the nudity and stuff. It's about like the intent of the artist here, right? What is the intent of the show? That I want to see the intended art cut, the director's cut, the artistic cut, and so it's and also like the flow of the show, as I mentioned, with the inserted black screens for commercials, disrupt the flow and everything. So there is moments here in this first episode where we see cut to black, and so it would seem that there is the same version they're airing on TV on the network channel. So we could be watching a neutered version of vampires here. I haven't heard any chatter online if there is like an uncensored version out there anywhere. But that's just something to be aware of. But on the other hand, maybe there is just one version, because if we look at this opening previously on, there is some nudity presented here. In the TV version was blurred out, as well as this one over here. So potentially this is the uncensored version. I don't know. But as we'll go through, there's pretty much only butt shots in regards to nudity in this episode. And I don't even remember if there's any naughty curse words in this episode. And then the cut to black scenes, where the commercial breaks go, it is done better. The music and the audio does fade better, so it does flow a little better. So at least they did that right this time, instead of just having hard cuts to black, which is really shitty. But we'll see. Anyways, if I encounter more of that or discover if there is in fact a full version releasing later on or whatever, I will report back. But now, that's the big old preamble there. Let's get into the show. This is a great opening totally establishes the feel. I feel like the first few seasons were, they were like New Orleans in the early 20th century, and then they go to Europe. It's very romantic feeling show. It was very nice. That old fashioned type of aesthetic and stuff. Especially like the second season, and this is like a whole new thing. Of course, to have the scenes from the current time. By the way, this is a really explosive opening, huh? Because we are automatically see right away that something has gone real wrong. This is like a flash forward. So this, I believe, is like mostly current times. The first season, of course, the flashbacks are like the early 1900s, and then the present time when Louis is being interviewed, that's like in 2022. So it's like in the middle of the pandemic, pretty much. Some people, I mean, there's still going on the pandemic pretty much, but it's pretty much the tail end. And no one really is wearing masks. Like the other day, I wore a mask to the theater, and no one else did. But anyways, but this, I believe, is present day, and so season 2, I believe, goes probably up to 2024, even though it's like in the same year, 2022. But like at the end of season 2, we have like Danny Malloy publishing the book, right? He has that interview on TV, and then Louis goes and visits Lestat in New Orleans, and so that, I believe, that scene was probably like, could it be like 2024? Definitely, like it takes a while, right, to publish a book, right? He has to, like, Daniel had to like write it, and he had to get the publishing all in order, and they had to get the release date right. All that takes a while, I know. So I imagine it's like maybe 2024, which is when the season 2 was released, around there. And then this takes place probably in current year 2026, and then when we flash back a little bit towards the whole rock tour concert we're going to see in a bit, that's 2025, because Lestat even says it, it's 2025, so we know that. So that's the timeline we have going on right now. So great opening, because immediately we're like, okay, what has happened? Like we see Armand with his eye patch, so obviously something has gone down. This is not a result of him getting pushed into the wall by Louis from last season. This is something much graver. And then Louis comes in, and this is a little hard to notice, but like he doesn't have a left leg here, or foot really. It looks like he has a prosthetic right there. You can see the gap between his ankle there, in the shoe. See, so like what happened, something big, some big battle. Of course, they're vampires. I suspect they're gonna heal up. We're probably gonna get more lore about how vampires heal, but last season we did see Louis get burnt up, and did it take a couple days to heal up? I forgot. But it took a while, and I imagine they can regenerate limbs, and an eyeball, I imagine. So I imagine this is fairly recently where they got into some violence and got their got really hurt real bad. And we get some references to what actually happened, right? There's a little voiceover here that Lestat mentions that it was entirely his fault, but there was here it says like there was an incident where most of the people with Y chromosomes were eliminated or something, and across the continents. Oops. Um, was all my fault. Not that it would suggest. I need to make sure I don't show too much because of copyright. But yeah, so like something happened. I I don't want to say too much. I have a feeling I know what went on or who was responsible, but that might be some spoilery stuff. But a big event happened, right? And like a bunch of people died, and this whole auction here is about his like um his prized possessions, and including recordings of him basically running down like what happened during his big tour, you know, because he becomes a big rock star, as we'll see. And that leads into some big vampire violence, which I imagine we'll see either at the end of this, or at least get teased at the end of this season, or maybe next season. And I imagine that leads into Queen of the Damned, with which I'm sure, I mean, you know about Akasha. Lestat mentioned he had Akasha's blood in the previous season, and he mentions it again here. If you've seen Queen of the Damned, the movie, you know the late great Aaliyah played Akasha. So she's like the queen of the vampires, you know. So you know, I guess we'll get into that as it is revealed more in this series. So I feel like she has something to do with what's going on, right? And so then we go into the whole concert. But this is, yeah, again, a good intro. By the way, this guy here, what's his name? Jason Rags or something, Raglan James. The guy with the glasses that they keep focusing on. We remember him from season 1 and 2 even. I think was he in season 1? He definitely had a scene at the sushi bar with Daniel Malloy in season 2. He's part of Talamasca. He's like the big Talamasca agent, you know, the James Bond of Talamasca or whatever. And which is, you know, the organization that monitors all the occult beings like vampires and witches, and helped out Daniel to get more info and helped publish the book, I'm pretty sure. And so, of course, he's here. Of course, there's got to be Talamasca presence at this auction here. The last time we saw him, by the way, was in the show Talamasca, the Sacred Order. Is that what it's called? I actually watched that show. I watched that in Mayfair Witches, and I was kind of like, they're not that great. Season 2 of Mayfair Witches is actually much better than season 1. But they're not up to snuff to this quality of the vampire of this show. But the last we saw Raglan James here, he in the Talamasca, he was like doing a deal and with these vampires, and there was like a vampire in there that was like this old vampire that they were like siphoning the vampire's blood. He was like bedridden, and they were like exploiting him to get his vampire blood and to use it for nefarious purposes. And so he collected a case of a bunch of vials of that vampire blood. And so that show, by the way, Talamasca, got canceled. So we don't know if that's going to go anywhere. But maybe it'll come up again in this show or series. He has some old vampire blood. Might tie into Akasha later on. Who knows? We'll see. So that's something to think about maybe. So now we finally get the true perspective, or we think, from Lestat here. Now it's his turn to tell a story. And as we see, the tone shift is completely different. We get the rock star thing. So what I was saying earlier was that like the first two seasons were romantic, you know, like in the art sense of the word, also in the love sense, but in the sense that like this one, it feels more like, you know, the rocker vampires kind of, it's reminiscent to me of like, you know, the 90s Blade style of vampires now, you know. And so, you know, that's the style here. Very a lot of quick cuts, heavy editing, like a music video situation. Of course, it's fitting. So I feel like it's gonna be a little bit jarring for a lot of viewers, especially going directly from the first interview with the vampire seasons. Although I do think the intro scene was a good little transition there to this moment here, which we see the local vampires here are going to come up in a second. But he's loved, but he's not that popular just yet, right? He has a decent following of fans, but he wants more. It's part of his character here. And then we see that he has these scars on him. That's another thing I was going to mention, that we're going to have to know more about why he has these scars, because as from the previous seasons, we know that vampires have healing powers, right? So why haven't these scars healed? Is it because he got these scars before he became a vampire and they can't heal scars that they got before? But then Claudia got burnt up and she was able to heal, you know, because she got burnt in the fire. So I'm not sure what the logic here is, what the rules are, but that's interesting. And this is pretty provocative. He comes on stage, and and it doesn't look red. So later on, we see that like vampires piss blood. It looks like they do not cum blood, which is yeah. So that's pretty provocative little moment there. So then, you know, we get some banter between the bandmates, and we get a little bit of the documentary style because they're also doing a documentary, you know. And then we have an introduction of Lestat's you know, music tour paramour here, D I think is her name, and he's gonna have some fun with a fan, and then we get some backstage stuff. Now, you know, this show, you know, it's AMC, so we do get some little bit of risque moments here. We see like a blowjob happening here, and potentially even side boob there, and then some butts. We get a bunch of butts. So maybe this is the full version we're watching. I don't know. But I remember like watching, you know, AMC shows. I think Mad Men on basic TV. I'm pretty sure Mad Men had butts and then a bunch of stuff and a bunch of butts. But that's as far as they go with nudity, I imagine. So, and with the exception of when they put stuff on AMC Plus, supposedly, you know, with the uncovered, and we already talked about. Anyways, enough of that. So it's interesting that they hire this doppelganger, right? He's like so the whole thing here is that like that vampire. So Lestat doesn't really reveal that he's a vampire yet, even to his bandmates. And he's doing this whole thing kind of to a sort of revenge for Louis, doing, you know, revealing all these secrets and lies really about his life and misrepresenting him to the world through this book, you know. And so he's gonna like set the record straight with his music, in a way, but at this point he still hasn't revealed to the world that he's a vampire. He's kind of like playing the role like, okay, we're just pretending. He's pretending to be a vampire, and that's why he has this doppelganger, or not doppelganger, it's like a what's it called, a body double, and well, he calls him a doppelganger, and because the doppelganger kind of implies that it's like supernatural or something. he or does it really? I don't know. Maybe that's just the term. Is it a German term, doppelganger? Maybe. Anyway, he's pretending to be him, so it looks like he's out in the real world during the daylight. Going to Applebee's or whatever, to make it seem like he's just acting. He's role playing. We do get okay. So this show, we do get some more sexy stuff, but like showcasing the bisexuality of Lestat. One thing I'm kind of concerned about this show is that it's gonna be a little less gay. I don't know. Like, it's nice, that we have this kiss here and everything, but like, again, because they're renaming it to the Vampire Lestat, they want to get in maybe a new audience to watch. I'm a bit fearful that they're trying to like lean more into the bisexuality in order to include more hetero coupling, to potentially attract audiences that maybe weren't interested in the gay romance. And I came to this show for the gay romance, and I want to see more of it. So we'll see, but I think, it's, of course, he is canonically a bisexual character, and I think it is good to have bisexual representation in media and all that. So that's good, but we'll see where it goes. But again, I feel like they're focusing more on his hetero matchings, and kind of putting a little spice of gay in there. And we'll see where that goes. And then, I get the main issue with this episode that I have is that there's a lot going on. There's so much going on. There's like him texting while Daniel is interviewing him, because he's trying to do a new interview now to set the record straight, while doing this documentary and stuff. And you can see that how Lestat is like more confrontational and a little bit more aloof than Louis is, compared to his interview. But there's so much going on, so you have to kind of like pause it to like read everything, the text, and like understand, and then also like listen in on what Daniel's saying. And it is a show, so you can pause it, as a, I guess I'm comparing it to like if it was in a theater or something, but like, it's there's that, but still, it's like I feel like it's better to structure a show or film it in a way, edit it in a way where you don't really want the audience to have to pause it just to like get all the information in at once, or understand what's going on. So that could be a little bit of a hurdle there. And I feel like it's kind of designed almost to like rewatch it, and so maybe that's also another clue that they're going to release a darker, bloodier, sexier version coming up, or something, just to get you to rewatch it again. I don't know. We'll see. So this kind of reveals like how he feels about the era, because it's basically he's saying this is his era now. He says that David Bowie, Freddie Mercury, Prince, they're all dead now. It's his time. Although Malloy's like, well, you're not as popular as who's playing somewhere else. Other people playing over there. Post Malone and Jelly Roll. But he's gonna get there. Is his hope, But from what I did read, again, the intro to the book, and that one's based in the 80s, And what's interesting about that intro is that Lestat pretty much describes how he finds the time period like really appealing and like very liberating. He talks about how the equality of the sexes at that point, men and women, feel more like women feel as liberated as men in that era, compared to like the time he was running around as a vampire in the 1800s or whatever. And so he looked at it. He looked at that era with rosy colored glasses, I think, almost. Although he does mention it, that's like, oh, but that's just the surface of it, but I think he's mostly alluding to the vampire stuff underneath the dark world of monsters. But in general, he's describing the era, as a great time. But then here, in an evolution of humanity, like the progression of humanity at its peak or whatever. And then here, now we're fast forwarding 40 years later, now, in this timeline of this show, he comes out here in 2020s, and he's like saying how, he's saying the opposite. How everything's just like not as good, and like human life, the value of life is arbitrary, he says. People are distracted by, are influenced by the algorithms, etc., and facts don't matter. So, a lot of contemporary critiques, it's all about the feels, he says. So that's like an interesting U-turn from how he describes the era in the book, and so that's where he's coming into. He's making fun of people who think Lululemon is sexy and stuff. Lululemon is like athletic wear, by the way, and then dark and dreary industrial world, and so that's his critique, and I guess he's here to get to, in this era, to get the spotlight now, maybe make some positive aesthetic change to the world. I don't know. I feel like he's more about aesthetics than anything. And then of course more butt shots. Like I don't mind it so much, but it does feel like somewhat like, okay, we have to get a good amount of butt shots in this to showcase that we're still a sexy show, but again, I think maybe trying to showcase more femme butts compared to last season or something. I don't know. So again, to get another audience, and then we cut to one of the cozier moments of the episode. And again, here's the little cut to black I was mentioning, right? And I think they do it pretty well here, in that it does fade nicely. Nice little fade there, versus the hard cut that they would do last time. With the TV version. So here he is in Montreal, right? And this is like the cozy moment. I was really liking this moment here because this is pretty much like maybe a year or so after, or months after we last saw that Louis and Lestat reconciled, and now they're in good terms, and they're not back together, obviously, but they're friendly, and perhaps there's a chance that they might be able to get back together. And so this felt like a nice little sidestep into a sort of like romantic comedy, or story of potential exes getting back together in Montreal. Come over, Louis. Let's have a little coffee day and maybe explore the town a little bit and maybe kiss. But no, because what's coming up is he's gonna find out that he released the book. Another thing about this is I don't have an iPad. I don't like notifications. I like to turn off notifications on stuff. But tell me, is this a thing where like you're talking to somebody and like he mentions Beyonce and then there's notification for Beyonce tickets? Is that real? Is that happening where like the computer now like listens in and automatically recommends something that you're talking about, and then he like says something about balloons or something and then balloons show up? Is that a thing? Like, that's kind of depressing. And then I guess they're like, maybe this is like an exaggeration of modern technology or something, but he's talking about I think does he mention Malone? Or he mentions something about Halloween or something, I don't know, but he gets a pop-up about the book that came out, and that's how he finds out that the book came out, and he's like, what the fuck, Louis, what did you do? Remember that Louis set the laptop on fire at the end of last season, assuming that would be it, that would be the end of it. But of course, it was backed up to the cloud, so Malloy was able to write it, right? The book, the interview with the vampire, and then we get some chatter from this bookstore clerks here who are into Armand but do not like Lestat. Of course, they don't realize Lestat's there. It's funny, like this guy's just like agreeing with her, like just kind of bored out of his mind. Like, I just want to go home and get the shift done. I'm assuming they're coworkers, but he's just like standing there. He could be on break. Yeah. Anyway, so like, so yeah, so then he of course reads the book and is disgusted and annoyed by all the lies and stuff. And no, they're not. He's not gonna have a good relationship with Louis anymore, or at least he's it's back to not liking each other again. And he's upset. And this is a funny little scene of him trick-or-treating or giving candies to trick-or-treaters, who are, by the way, dressed up as characters from the book, I guess, right? We got Claudia. This is another Claudia. This is Armand when he goes to chase his meal that one time. The guy who comes over to like, cause he bet that he could like outrun him or something, and then that's how Armand gets has fun with his food, races him, and then chases him and eats him. And then I think is that another Armand, or is this Malloy? This might be Daniel Malloy here. And then just a ghost. That could be Claudia. That could be a tease that we're gonna see a ghost Claudia. I don't know. So yeah, he's upset. He's of course, he's very particular about his music, and as we know from last season, so he goes over and shows them how it's done to his neighbors who are rocking out here. And this, of course, is going to be his band coming up, and so that's this pretty much the intro to how he finds his band. So why is Dee just laying on the floor here with some pillows? I mean, she's probably exhausted and drugged out, but there's a couch over there. Anyways, it almost feels like they set this up just for the shot. Like, it'd just be cool if she's laying right there, for this shot here instead of over there. Okay, so then we get a blackout. I wonder what the significance of this blackout here. This is like one of the moments in this episode where it feels like it gets quieter. It's like it slows down a bit. I wish there's a little bit more of those moments in this episode because it feels like it's a little too frantic. We get more chats. Okay, so I didn't mention it, but he's been chatting with somebody. Moi and toi. Moi is me in French, of course. Toi is you. So who could this be? We while he was on the bus, Malloy asked oh, are you still talking to Louis? And we think, okay, could this be Louis? Is this another person? It's who is he chatting with? It seems like the way he says that he misses you and all that. It's oh, it's a lover, an ex-lover. So you would think it's maybe Louis, but I don't know. And so we'll see where that goes. And so yeah, the blackout, I feel like that's a foreshadowing to something. There's gonna be some blackout later on, and that's where the violence is gonna kick in. With that's where there's gonna be a lot of deaths, I imagine. Then we get actually this is actually a cool little shot here. Is this a zoom out and a dolly at the same time? I feel like it might be. It's just a nice shot there. Of course, she's taking all the drugs, what looks like 2 tabs of LSD and a bunch of pills there. Really cool little design there. Ecstasy and LSD. And then we get another show here. the music here, I think is cool. I think I like the first song a little better. But I do like how he has the violin here. That's nice to see, using these older instruments with the new electric guitars. But I think Lestat is a great singer. Sam Reed, I think, does a great job of portraying a rock star here. Really sells it. Really fun stuff. Here Malloy's looking for D here, and potentially there could be some kind of do they have some kind of intimacy between them? Are they fucking? I don't know, but I think it might be more to do with drugs. It looks like this is more about Malloy getting back into his drug habit, right? That's the whole reason he did the first interview with Louis. He was trying to score drugs. And that is a bit a change from the books, right? From my understanding, I haven't read all of them, but he was turned by Armand in this version. But I believe he had a relationship with Armand in the books, and so there has been some unfortunate potential gay erasure with his character, because he kind of like was saying how he went to that club to meet up, or the bar to meet up with Louis for drugs and not for coupling up or sex or anything. So it's almost and he was married twice, and there's no really mention of his sexuality beyond him doing only transactional sexuality for drugs, or gay sex for drugs. But like, it feels like they made him straight, and like, so this is again another reinforcement, like, oh, like him like hooking up, even if just for drugs. Another straight scene here with Daniel, which is kind of fortunate, because we want to see more gay stuff. I do, and so that's a thing. And then we get the moment where the Stott has a nervous breakdown. It's pretty much a panic attack. He's about to bite his lead guitarist because he's taking the spotlight. He wants the solo, and then it's almost like a little bit of a heart attack, almost, or definitely a panic attack. And then he has these flashbacks. So we get a lot of flashbacks here. It's going to be difficult to like really look at all these little okay, well, that was like a little some kind of burning there. And this is a moment here where, who is this? Is this Nikki? Because remember he in last season, one of his first love affairs as a vampire was with that Nikki character who was in the band, in the orchestra of the plays, stabbing. I think it's someone else though. Stabbing. I don't think that was Lestat. Who was he stabbing? Someone with darker hair. Maybe that is Lestat. I don't know. Is that maybe a young Lestat? I don't know. Or wait, cannot. Here's the. Wait, is that the blonde hair from? That's a two arms. So it's like it's a morph. It's like the two images overlaid on top of each other. It looks like a person with dark hair and a person with light hair. So that's kind of confusing. Maybe he's mixing up things in his mind. I don't know. There's some stabbing going on there. Let's see if we can get to. There we go. Fuck, I messed it up. He does see Louis he basically is talking about he's seeing muses. He's seeing all his muses and hallucinating. I'm trying to go frame by frame. Sometimes here we go. The video doesn't work well, but here. So here is what appears to be a burning, a witch burning, a vampire burning, witnessing some vampires being burnt. Could this connect to the Mayfair witches? But early on, when he was in Montreal, talking to Louis, he mentioned how there's no witches in the area now because there was the Mayfair witches that lived in New Orleans. And could there be a connection with that series? Because that's supposed to be in the same universe. And I imagine they're now on the same timeline or the time frame, right? I imagine because the Mayfair Witches show, which is also based on the books that Anne Rice wrote, that is in the same universe as the vampire books, that I think takes place in the same time period, right? Now it's all modern time, present time. So there might be a connection there where they go back in the past, but it could just be vampires burning, it's not, and then we see a bunch of different stuff as well. This is all like flash forwards to potentially what's going to happen in this upcoming season. We're going to see Gabriella here, who we're going to be seeing at the end of this episode. Images, I think that's her and maybe Lestat battling it out at the dining table room. And then getting dragged here. I'm pretty sure this is Magnus, right? This has to be Magnus, the creator, the sire of Lestat, who we heard about in the previous seasons. And so he's imagining that. And then here is, I believe, Gabriella again, who Lestat says is his mother. Like, what kind is it? His biological mother? Like, I know, I know she's in the book, of course. I just don't know the full story. I'm not, super fan reader of the series. I'm a fan of the show, and I do intend to read most of the series. I feel like by the time next season comes up, I'll probably at least finish the book, the Stop book, and the Queen of the Damned. Anyway, so that's interesting. We get some interesting preview of what's going to happen. Definitely some combat between Magnus and Lestat, and then I feel like, I don't know if they show it here at some other point. There's like a scene here. It happens so fast. There's a moment where we see Magnus, I think, or someone having sex with Gabriella. And is that what makes Gabriella his mother? Because I don't know. Like, is it going to be a stepmother thing? I don't know. We're going to talk about it a little later at the end of this episode here when we get to it. But he bites into a fan who jumps on stage, and he's OD'd because of course she's taken all these drugs, and he's sucked all her blood pretty much. Including the LSD and the ecstasy in her blood. And she's almost dead. Luckily, they have the doctor, the vampire doctor. We all saw earlier in the bus, little cameo there, the same doctor that was helping out Daniel in the previous seasons for blood transfusions for his Parkinson's, and other stuff. What else? But now he's just the go-to doctor for the vampires. And I guess, like, instead of having to drink blood, you can just get blood transfusions. I'm assuming Dr. Farid, I think his name is. Yeah. I guess that would work. I mean, blood transfusions are usually just to switch out your blood, right? Not to. But I guess you get, it's also for like to get more blood in your system. But I guess you can just use that instead of feeding. But as we see in this episode, Malloy has gone full evil vampire. He's like ready to kill. Even right here, like is he like trying to like drink up the remaining of her blood or something? His smile and stuff is all very evil. Like he's like rubbing her lips for some reason. He's trying to get drugs from her or something. I don't know. Like, I'm not sure what he's doing there, because that's not gonna wake her up. He seems like a very hungry vampire right there. So Lestat sees the soul, the spirit of this girl. I think Baby Jenkins. What's her name? Baby Jenks, the super fan. And she's like giving a little more foreshadowing here. She's like, hey, you got all these fans, and he's like, I want more, I want billions of them. And he's like, you should, be happy with the fans you got, and also like other vampires are coming. Get ready, they're gonna come for you. And she also mentions that like everyone's gonna die. Like they're talking about death, right? Like, oh, like I'm immortal though, and he's like, nope, everyone's gonna get it. And she mentions that like, you know, they're gonna die. Pretty much everyone in the room is gonna die. Obviously, everyone's gonna die eventually. But even you, Lestat. And then like she mentions she's like, he's gonna die bad. She says. So that's a you know, they're foreshadowing there. Like, oh, like how is he gonna die? You know, I'm sure book readers know. But I think it would be fitting for Malloy to get a devastating, a brutal ending for him, right? Because he's become kind of just like very egotistic and self-centered at this point. And so this, you know, all in his head, right? Or could it be that we're getting some more supernatural stuff, you know, like, you know, we have the witches show, are we gonna get the ghost show? No, are we gonna get more ghost? I do know that there's like ghost stuff in future books, so like maybe we're gonna get more ghostly stuff coming up here. But that's you know, that's cool. Then he goes to the thing. Okay, so then here things start to ramp up here. This is like the point really where this episode really ramps up. And I guess it's kind of supposed to kind of like represent just the state that he's in, right? He's all, you know, high out of his mind. And so a lot of the quick editing, a lot of the quick pace of these scenes here, over the voiceover, the back and forth, like, oh, I'm getting ahead of myself, you know. It's very disorienting, right? Like but I guess it's like makes you feel kind of like put you in the shoes of Stott here, because that's what he's going through. So I get that, but I feel like maybe it was a little bit too much. Maybe we could have slowed it down a little bit, at least like, and maybe this sequence here would be good to be this quick pace, but then later on maybe not so much. I don't know, so we'll see. So then yeah, more flashbacks. Maybe this is a flashback. We see the motherfucking flashback. Again, more butts here. So yeah, so this scene, like, this could be a scene where like maybe there's an uncut version that gets a little sexier. I don't know. But you know, of course, like, she survived, luckily, you know, they saved her. And then, so she's giving all this praise to Lestat, makes it feel a little good, but of course, he's still drugged up, and now he's going to relieve himself, and we get the info that vampires pee blood, and they don't like eco-friendly urinals, because they don't really clean up the stains. They're really good, so they have to use a Chardonnay. By the way, here is this testicles here? So maybe there's a little more nudity there. I don't know. It's hard to tell what that is exactly. I think that's might be his testicles. Anyways, so then what was I saying? So oh yeah, so he goes over like all the lies and stuff. Like, you know, he didn't embroider his initials in his jacket, in his blazer. His hair was longer. What else did he say? Other stuff, correcting, like, you know, what Louis wrote down. And of course, it also kind of like showing that he's maybe also not as good as a reliable narrator as well. He also says like, "Oh, scratch that, what I just said," you know. So he's kind of editing in real time here what he's delivering to the audience. I think the voiceover what we're hearing is pretty much the voiceover on that vinyl record that is on auction, right? Which is interesting. It could be a mix of like, no, I think that's what it is. You know, apparently it seems that, you know, Malloy is doing a documentary, then he's also probably going to write another book about this. So then that'll be a whole different layer of fact versus fiction. But I suppose, you know, I feel like, you know, this season is definitely going to be the Lestat's perspective, but I don't I don't think we should fully, buy into every single thing he says. Of course, everyone has their own biases and perspective, right? So here we get the regional vampires here. We get non-binary representation here. This guy is a little bit annoyed about pronouns, so I don't know about that. But I heard someone was saying on Twitter that Lestat misgendered Russ here, but I don't remember seeing that anywhere. It was this guy who misgendered them. But yeah, they're kind of just like eventually cringy vampires with the whole like Fang Gang name, which is kind of a silly name for vampires, but they're all into it and they want to kill him because he revealed the secret, the special laws of vampire, lore or whatever. Of course, Lestat doesn't care about that anymore. Or he never really did that much, really, did he? As we saw in last season when he confronted Armand and broke up his little coven. So we still get some text. They want to invite him over to their party. Obviously they want to kill him. This little effect here, I think it works fine here. To represent his drug-addled mind. But I think it gets a little bit too much. I think they do the effect a little too much. But in this scene here, they do it one more time, and I think it's like, it looks a little too goofy. Like, I don't know if we really need that much of this, Goes back to the dance floor, and he's gonna have, and I think, okay, so he says that the rest of the crew goes upstairs, so he's gonna go meet them upstairs, and he's gonna take his paramours now on their way up there in the elevator, do some sexies time. Now we're doing the sexies time, and he's detailing really what really turns vampires on. The first thing is, of course, the blood and stuff. I think the first thing he says, the first thing is the death, the killing, and then the second thing is the drinking of the blood as they're slowly dying, and then the third thing that's top of the list of things that really get vampires going is a little drink of some blood there. So it's like the splurging and then the little drink, and then the fourth is sex. He says fourth is sex. So this is like contrasting how Louis described it, where sex was kind of like the prelude to the drinking of blood, and Lestat's like it's kind of the opposite, almost like it's only fourth best thing. In the books, I believe sex isn't even that big of a thing. It's mostly just the drinking of blood is the equivalent of sex in the books. And then more butt shots there, and they do that, and then of course it's mostly it's mostly like, I mean, it's a female male threesome, but then we get the bellboy coming in, introducing a little bit of male action, just enough to have a little more bisexuality here. Although I think they do get a little bit of lesbian action here. We'll see if there's more gayness coming up. But then we get the big old hallway scene. She, by the way, says she's married here, which is interesting. Like, it's almost like this is her. Did she say she's getting married? I'm getting married, yeah. So it's almost like a sort of like her bachelorette party is having fun with Lestat and friends. And that's the last we see of her, maybe. That's her exit, just in time for Lestat and Dee to confront the Fang Gang. And of course, like, he's, he's like sluggish because of the drugs and everything. And so he's not at his top performance here. and there's a bunch of vampires here, so he gets scratched up a lot. It's pretty brutal, and we get some flash. Here's a flashback to him drinking that fake baby. Remember that scene? Drinking the blood from the fake baby at Mardi Gras. Lestat here, the Armand, and oh yeah, like they're a fan of Armand. These are the team Armand here. I feel like Armand does get a bad rap. He was manipulative. He did change the whole story. He did. It was. I'm pretty sure it was Lestat who saved Louis, not him at the trial last season. But I feel like he's not as evil as people say he is. I have a little soft spot for Armand. And again, I think in the books it's probably different. I think we'll see how close it is to the books. But I feel like this series is kind of making Armand not to be as bad. We'll see where it goes. So of course, he hates Armand, and they're about to decapitate him. So this is I guess a technique to get rid of vampires. You use this wire here to decapitate them much more easily, because I think that's one of the sure ways to kill a vampire. Separate the brain from the heart, I guess. Although again, I think in the book, as long as the body is still not burnt up, the vampire can reconnect his head to the heart, to his body. But this might be different in these shows here. Luckily, a little bit is this Deus Machina, that Malloy and the DJ Sam Barclay show up. Again, it's a bit of the cringe vampire stuff, and that's why he laughs. The thing is that they can communicate telepathically, so I imagine they sensed vampire energies, a lot of vampire energy upstairs. So I think that's why they came up here. But he was saved by Dan and Sam. So of course we see it's revealed here, or at least it's teased in previous seasons, that Sam Barclay, the playwright from the Theater of Vampires, the Théâtre des Vampires, was Sam, and he became a DJ later on. They mentioned that in the previous season, and this is him right here. And I thought like he was supposed to be like this universe's version of Sam Beckett, who was a playwright at that time period, because the play he put on was very similar to Waiting for Godot. But I think it's pretty much he's just similar and just kind of like a reference, but he's not actually Samuel Beckett. But he's here now. And again, he clarifies that he was working for Talamasca, because he's the one who was able to give the script with the notes that Armand put. He had notes in the margins to reveal that, in fact, Armand did rehearse the play, the trial play that got Claudia killed. And so that was the big reveal at the end of last season, that Armand was at fault. And that's why they broke up, Louis and Armand, at the end there. And so he's a Talamasca agent, Sam. And he's still working with them, I guess. Is he? I don't know. But he says that he made me do, they made me do it or something to be part of the vampire thing. So maybe we'll get more info about that, like why he felt compelled to do Talamasca's bidding. Does the Talamasca have some blackmail on him? I don't know what's going on there. Anyway, so we'll see. And so this is the big reveal. Vampire Lestat is in fact a vampire. And he flies off at the end there. There's no doubt that he's a vampire. And now the band, everyone in that room knows. Will he have a coming out party on stage? We'll see. And this is the very end here. This is the major reveal point of this episode that is gonna make a lot of people uncomfortable, including myself. He goes back to this hotel room. By the way, this is like, he says he's like across the river or something. It says Windsor, so that's like just outside of Detroit, I think. The they were in Detroit for the concert and all that. So how did he just book this room? Did he just go to the front desk all bloodied up and like, give me a room? I guess he could have used his vampire powers to just like, persuade them and like make, get a room without them making any ruckus about it. Like, we can't let someone in here who's all bloodied up. So he's in there, he's throwing up blood, all that, and he's desperate. He's like, he wants someone to come and comfort him, rescue him. He messed up real bad. He can't get out of it. This is some really good performance. Another great performance from Sam Reed here. As the person he's been texting this whole time shows up. It's Louis, right? It's Louis. No, it's not Louis. It's Gabriella. For the first time we see her, a really big character, apparently. We saw those flashbacks this before, and he calls her fledgling, or is it he calls himself a fledgling? No. He was sired by Magnus, fledgling lover mother. So that kind of recalls how Daniel referred to Lestat when he was talking to Louis, right? He was like, I forgot what it was. It was like maker, lover. Was it father as well? Because like, and maybe he was referring to Claudia, his relationship to Claudia, because Lestat and Louis were fathers to Claudia in a way. And later on, Louis was they decided to be more like brothers and sisters. So what is he indicating here? Like fledgling. So fledgling, did he make Gabriella? Marcus, we know Magnus. We know Magnus sired Lestat. Did he sire Gabriella? Was Gabriella his biological mother? Or because he made her and while she was older, is she like a mother figure? She's also a lover, so they've been hooking up for centuries. Awkward. So maybe this is a stepmother situation, maybe it's not. Either way, it feels icky and it feels odd in this show that was like, the first two seasons were all about, this toxic, tragic gay vampire romance that was, not as icky as mother and son romance. So is this gonna shift the whole tone in that sense of the romance and make it not as engaging or fun to watch from that perspective? I don't know. We're gonna see where that goes. I'm curious to see. Let me know how everyone's feeling. How are you feeling about this revelation? Kissing the mother. Are we going into Freudian territory here? We're gonna see that they do have a clips of what's coming up. I watched a little bit of this, but I was like, I don't want to watch more because it's gonna ruin things. It's gonna spoil things. So I skipped over that. And that's another unfortunate way that they release these things. AMC, like it cuts out like from this. It just cuts straight to like, listen to the music on Spotify and let's look in to see what's happening in this season. And it's all just, it's tacky, and I'm eagerly anticipating like the Blu-ray release or whenever they release a version where like it's actually edited in a way without those commercial breaks, black screens, and maybe in extended versions, maybe fully uncensored, maybe just like treat it the show with respect, as an artistic work of art. Vampire incest. Oh my gosh, I don't know. We'll see what's going on here. But it really depends on how they pull it off. Like, I'm not against incest storylines. It just depends on how it's told. And I don't know, like, again, it's a whole new era. It's the Lestat era. It's a whole new tone. It's the rocker life. But I want to see more of this. I want to see more of the. I do miss Louis and Armand. I want to see what's going on with them. I suspect we will see them, but I suspect what's going to happen is we're going to have like several episodes of flashback where we're going to tell the story of Lestat's origin and his relationship with Gabriella and Magnus, and then it's going to lead up back into probably the last couple episodes. We'll probably come back to the modern times, but again, I think they're going to also do a split like they did last season. So again, I don't know the full story, but I do know that Akasha shows up at some point in Queen of the Damned, so they'll probably save. I did hear they casted Akasha, so I think she is going to show up in the show. They might end it this season with Akasha, the queen of the vampires, showing up. Maybe there'll be a flashback because we are going back in time, but I feel like, right, he has the blood of Akasha, so maybe that'll be a scene. Maybe we won't see Akasha in modern times. Maybe we'll see Akasha in the flashback where he gets her blood somehow. And again, I'm sure like anyone who's read the books, are screaming at their screen maybe, and like, hey, this is what happens. You don't know what you're talking about. This mostly when I'm talking about this show on this channel, it's mostly going to be from a perspective of non-book readers, because like I said, I'm gonna like try to read alongside, but I'm not gonna be able to finish in time for the season ending. Maybe we'll see. But either way, like, I'm sure they're going to include a lot of Queen of the Damned stuff. They're going to probably include maybe stuff from the future books. I know that James Maglin was his name. I keep forgetting his name. The Talamasca dude is like more pivotal in future books. So they're going to mix things up. And I like that. It's cool. Like, it should be a whole different thing. It shouldn't be, exactly 101 to the books. This is so exciting. This whole scene is like, it's kind of like, fans of like comic book movies and stuff, when they see like, characters and cameos in movies and stuff, and how the whole universe is tied together. Like, I like some of those movies, but like, this feels like this is my version of it. Like, oh yeah, I'm so excited to see where these characters, what's their deal? Why are they showing up here? How's it all gonna connect? How does all this spider web of vampires, how does it all work? And so I feel like we're building up to the big climactic vampire battle. Maybe season 2 of Vampire Lestat, where all the vampires are gonna come together and have a big old battle or something. I think that's where it's leading to, that big old crossover event. Maybe a crossover event with the witches. I don't know. And I think there's gonna be another show too. There's gonna be like they canceled Talamasca, but they, I think, announced another show. I don't know. We'll see if it's any good. I feel like this guy is, or maybe they're all like kind of sexually fluid. I was thinking that this guy's the gay guy in the band, because he's like the one who was like, he said thank you to Lestat when he came over to correct them on their music, and I feel like he's really into Lestat. Although we do see the lead singer kiss Lestat in the bar, but I don't know if that really meant much anything. And I think the blowjob that guy was getting early on was from a dude. I don't know. What's up with his scars? There's so many questions. We'll see where it goes. So that's gonna be about it for this episode of the Vampire Lestat. I'll probably do a weekly thing where I talk about each episode. We'll see. We'll see. That's what I did last time on these shows. I did a weekly reaction, pretty much. So maybe that's what I'll do. But now, yeah, let me know. I want to know what everyone's thinking. Like, let me know what you're thinking. Like, what are your feels? How are you feeling about this new turn, this new swerve into new Lestat territory in season 3 / season 1 of the Vampire Lestat? I'm excited. I'm still in. Like I'm sure like this first episode I thought was I get a bit disorienting. There was a lot of good moments. The ending, was a cliffhanger ending situation where it's a really shocking, provocative ending. Not so sure how I feel about it, but again, it depends on how it plays out. But I feel like I'm gonna like it once once more episodes come out. But I feel a little bit iffy about this episode though, just because like it was just such a tonal shift and such so much going on that I feel like maybe they could have eased us in a little bit more, but put together with the rest of the series or with the rest of the episodes coming up, it could still be really good. It could kind of make up for it. So we'll see. I'm hopeful. We'll see. Again, it's 7 episodes, so I wonder where the break is. I suspect we will have a lot more years of these vampires coming up before the big vampire conclusion. I don't know. I don't know if they'll go beyond Queen of the Damned. I'm pretty confident they'll probably at least do Queen of the Damned. I don't imagine. I feel like this is going to be a popular season just because everyone loves Lestat, and I can't see how Queen of the Damned won't be popular either. But then when you go further on, there's gonna, I don't know if the broader audience is gonna care so much beyond that. We'll see. So that's actually they actually name the actress. This is the actress who's gonna be Akasha, and I don't remember seeing her in this episode. Maybe in one of those quick flashbacks we saw her somewhere. Is that what it's indicating, or is this just saying that like in general she's in this season, she's guest starring in this season somewhere? That's a little bit confusing with the credits there. But yeah, let me know. That's the Vampire Lestat. But before I go, I do want to talk about Boots Riley. I watched a movie recently in theaters. It's gonna be a little bit of a long episode. We're not gonna spend too much time on Boots Riley. I love boosters, but we're gonna talk about I love boosters because it's worth talking about. And I haven't done an episode of Moonbath Chats by the Screenlight in a while, and I have been watching a bunch of stuff, but not as much as usual. I've been really busy, and that's why I haven't done an episode. But I was able to catch I Love Boosters in theaters before it left. Let's bring that up here. I Love Boosters. So this is the latest Boots Riley movie. Boots Riley, he has had a career as a hip hop artist, rapper, and he then several years ago now, when was it? 2018. He came out with Sorry to Bother You, which has become one of my favorite movies of all time. And he, he's a director who who puts his politics on screen pretty without shame, without pretty prominently, but in a way that's like flows into the story and meshes it with the story really well. It's some people might say it's a little bit didactic, but I think he does it really well. Or it's not. So this is he does it well enough. This is a series he had on Amazon. I thought it was really good. That I think the only bad thing about this series is that it ends a bit abruptly, because it almost ends like it's supposed to have a second season, but they never got picked up for a second season. But it because it's a series, it has a lot more breathing room. But definitely, Sorry to Bother You is a classic. It's also pretty similar thematically to I Love Boosters, in that it's about worker solidarity, really. Getting together with your coworkers and organizing and striking and unionizing, all that, to get better working conditions. All wrapped up in like a surreal, colorful aesthetic and style that sets Boots Riley apart, really. What I think from a lot of contemporary filmmakers, and that's probably one of the things I think attracts people to his work is his surrealist, colorful style that it really it stands apart from structurally, even from and visually, from most of even the indie filmmakers we see today, who tend to be a lot more grounded, right? And I feel like we haven't seen too much of it. Like, it reminds me of the stuff that Michel Gondry, I think, Spike Jonze, what is it? Spotless Mind, what's it called? Endless Sunshine in the Spotless Mind. And Being John Malkovich, those Spike Jonze, Michel Gondry movies, have that surreal storytelling that was it felt like back in the 2000s or something, was really well regarded and applauded. But we kind of lost a little bit of that whimsy. I don't see that too much, and so I feel like Boots Riley is kind of filling that role. In addition to that, he, as a self-described communist, he's really bringing his politics onto the screen in, I think, an engaging way that we don't really see from any other filmmaker. I can't think of any Marxist filmmaker out there who is telling stories like this and is getting any really attention these days. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate this movie for doing that, and in a way kind of moving the politics he's laid out in Sorry to Bother You with I Love Boosters. He moves a little bit further. Obviously, I would have liked him to go even further, but you take what you can get sometimes, and it's as a commie, it's also hard to get your films made in the first place, right? So I imagine he's not at the point yet where he can fully deliver on every single thing he wants to in regards to the kind of values he wants to present. But I think with a movie like this, is presented again with this aesthetic, this color, this almost joyful working class perspective. It really I think is really attractive to a larger audience, you would think, right? Although I don't think it did super well Like Sorry to Bother You, I think, did more, maybe did better at the box office, but it definitely had legs in the home release, right? And so this might be another one of those cult movies that gets more attention once it gets a home release. But overall, I think that like this again showcases his style, and like it's about like a gang of boosters, right? Who are who shoplift clothing to then sell it, and that's how they make their money in this oppressive, capitalist world. And so so that it has like the heist element to it, that's really cool. And then obviously has like the billionaire villain character, and it has a great cast. Like, we got Keke Palmer, Naomi Ackie, Taylor Page, like they're all great. And the main issue, I think, that again it crams in a little bit too much in this, within an hour and 45 minutes. And so it sometimes gets a little bit disorienting. Part of it is the surreal, dreamy, vibrant aesthetic to it and feel to it. But part of it is also like, it has some of the sci-fi concepts in it, or he melds it with political theory at the same time, so it's kind of like mangled all together, and so it doesn't completely it's not always clear in what it's trying to say as much as I would like, or I think as much as maybe he would want it to be in order to be more broadly appealing to people, right? To completely understand it, and I think one of the things that fails is the character development, because it's a little bit too rushed, that some of the characters and the relationships don't feel as authentic as they could, right? But the cool thing is that he does connect this to a wider world. It does kind of go global. There's a moment here where the stakes get higher, and we see how things are connected, not just for these characters in the local Oakland level, but also in the worldwide level, and how, what they're doing connects to people on the other side of the world. And then it gets even wilder from there. There's a Lakeith Stanfield character in there that's kind of like, it feels like somewhat superfluous at times, sort of like a love interest character. There's a funny scene that's pretty wild with his character that may put off some maybe more prudish people, but I thought it's like a kind of like a really effective horror sequence, actually. I guess we won't. Maybe okay. So let's go a little bit into the spoileriness of it. Not too much, just to get more of my thoughts in. But I think that like if you're into Boots Riley and his vibe, you'll enjoy this. I feel like it's probably third on my list of like his movie TV stuff. Like Sorry to Bother You is probably still his top one, and then I Am Virgo, and then this. Because again, I think it's a little bit too messy to really top those. But I feel like we should support him either way. Like it's gonna be better than a lot of the slop that you see, anyways. So I don't think you will really regret watching it, and it might, it's probably not going to be in theaters for that much longer. It probably is. You could probably only find it in major metropolitan areas, I imagine, at this point. And so it probably will be released in home video soon, or released streaming, etc. But yeah, so let's go a little bit more into the spoilery stuff. Spoilers. Okay, so again, there's a lot going on in this movie. Like, I think the point the storyline with Naomi Aki's character and then this guy, the pyramid scheme, like that's one thing that was introduced here that I didn't really buy, that she was like fully um on board with the pyramid scheme, and like we needed a little bit more development there, you know, to really like feel like she was getting swindled there. And then her relationship with the Kiki Palmer's character, like that was the main friendship. Like I don't feel like that worked really well. Like it felt a little bit formulaic at the point where they finally had that big fight, you know, at the end with the whole bodysuit situation. And that's another thing. Like there's like so many elements of this movie. I think one of the things that worked least was the whole bodysuit situation with, like, it was revealed like these one of the big projects that the main villain was doing was like, you know, working on these bodysuits to give to people to, it was almost like it was like a horror element almost moment, like almost like an alien body snatcher moment, really, but like these bodysuits that people would wear to kind of promote this propaganda on TV and stuff. That was really funny, some funny bits, you know. But it was like another extra sci-fi element, a little bit too much going on, where the transporter thing, that was like enough. Like we didn't need more than that. And so, you know, and then even that, the whole climax ending, like, okay, so first of all, I guess talk about the transporter thing. The one of the big things about the movie, the sci-fi thing, is the transporter of from the factory in China. That's the main character brought that over, and that's how she stole a bunch of clothing, and that's how they were able to do the big heist at the end, pretty much. That was a whole new concept that was explained by Isa Gonzalez's character, I think. And that was interesting. That was a way for Riley to kind of introduce like the theory of like dialectical materialism, combining that with a sci-fi concept of like transforming these dresses and creating fast fashion using this technology. And it was kind of like a stoner explanation of it, because that's like kind of like the character. And it felt like a very like heavy-handed exposition there, and wasn't maybe the most eloquent way of explaining that political theory, which was kind of diluted with the sci-fi, because dialectical materialism really is about the conflict, like the debate, and really about getting to understand the materiality of this world in terms of, you know, Marx applied it to the class struggle and who operates the modes of production, right? Which class rules. And I feel like it wasn't really explained in that manner. It was more explained in terms of like how this transporter worked and how it transformed items into the work that went into them. So like they would change like the dresses into like a dress made of plants and trees, because that was the resources that were used to make that item, you know. Like it's even like difficult to explain right now, but I feel like Boots Riley did a better job of like laying out his concepts in something like I'm a Virgo, where he had a whole sequence there that was really laid out visually, discussing how police are really serving capital and private property to protect private property, and not really there to protect the people. And that was like a much more effective sequence of kind of tying, theory to the story of these superheroes. And I'm a Virgo, and here it just happened. Explaining his concept was like felt very mangled, and again like a stoner talking about like some wild ideas, And so maybe this is a movie that benefits more with repeat viewings, but then like, but then also like by the climax, I feel like it felt like a little bit uncoordinated or too rushed, because like there was the moment where like they finally go to the big event, a fashion event, and they are transforming. There's a scene where they use the machine to transform the clothing on the models, but we had the cameras on our characters using the machine, but like we don't see exactly what happens, what they're seeing. Like it's almost like the production didn't have the time, to film the consequence of that, right? And like we see later that like the models are walking back into the dressing room, like covering up, they don't have their clothes anymore, but like we're not seeing what the audience is seeing at the runaway show, or not, because I think it's supposed to be broadcasted. It's supposed to be a big event where like people, it's going to make a big impact and everyone's watching, so we don't really get to see what the world sees, or the viewers of the world see. We have to see only the reaction of the characters on the heist doing, they're using the machine. So it's like, it feels like visually it didn't really represent what, or showcase what was actually happening in a coherent way in one of the most pivotal moments, and this kind of similar thing happens later on with when they transform the people into everyone's like holding picket signs up, which I'll get into in a second. But again, it focuses a lot on the reactions of the people holding machines, and it doesn't like it lingers on them so much. It's almost like in a reality show when like something big's happening, and or a big decision's being made, and someone's going to say like, oh, he's the winner, or she's the winner, or whatever. But then they just show the people like anticipating it. It's like the anticipation is the focus versus the result. And so that's just one little thing. But overall, like there was also, there's just a lot going on, like the bodysuits and the chase sequence was interesting. But I think what was most engaging was the opening heist moments, the beginning of the film, the first half, where they were stealing the clothes, where they were like working to like do the heist, and there was like the whole like the conflict with the workers at the shops who were trying to organize and ask for better pay and stuff, and then how this gang here, the Keke Palmer gang, wasn't really caring about them. They were just worried about themselves, like doing the whole boosting thing. And that was, a great conflict between them, and then, showing the character development, and then it kind of like at the end, it kind of like doesn't feel like it lands as well. Like it's building up to like them like Keke Palmer's character realizing that she needs to think about not just herself, but everybody around that she's affecting, the people who are making the clothes in China, like the workers she's working with, not just her gang. And it's like a heartwarming ending, but it feels like it doesn't connect as well as it should. It's like, it's not, it definitely feels a little rushed at the end. and then it feels a little saccharine by the point, and a little bit too heavy-handed the moment where they transform everybody into protesters and having their signs up, you know, picket signs and protest signs, and that suddenly was enough to change the mind of the CEO to meet the demands of the workers who were asking for better pay and working conditions, which is a great message and all. And I think, you know, and it showcased, like, later on, it showcased like how that inspired global strikes, you know, and that inspired people around the world, and that led to better conditions for people, for workers. But it felt like there was like some connection missing there and it felt, you kind of had to suspend your disbelief that the billionaire CEO and all these companies would just so easily meet the demands, you know, and it's kind of like, because it's just like a surreal film in a way. There's a lot of surreal moments. Part of the aesthetic and the feel of the movie is to kind of like suspend your disbelief a bit. Like that's kind of like, you know, the style of the movie. So, you know, it's kind of hard to get away from that idea that like a lot of the movie, it's not supposed to be realistic, you know, it's supposed to be like hyperbolic and an exaggeration. So then that also plays into the ending message of it, but then it kind of then feels a little bit too utopic, you know, and kind of loses a bit of its bite, you know, because it feels like a little bit too simplistic. But if you look at it more like a dreamy, fun movie, then that's more about the message than it is about the actual, you know, structure of the script, you know, or the individual characters. Then it feels good. Then it's a feel good movie, you know. So I don't know, but there's a little bit like, it's hard. I'm struggling to like articulate this, but it feels like there's a little bit of a disconnect there from the messaging and the storytelling, which kind of just like diminishes overall my feeling, because as someone who like supports the message overall, as someone who also identifies as a communist, like I want to see movies like this with this type of messaging, but I also, as a cinephile, really, you know, want to put a lot of weight as well onto just the narrative structure and the and in the character development, the performances, all that combined together, you know, when it comes to like evaluating a film on a whole, you know. So in comparison to his other stuff, like I'm a Virgo, which has more breathing room to develop these ideas and characters, give them more depth, or something like I Love, or something like Sorry to Bother You, which is the scale is a little smaller and the scope is smaller, so it was able to articulate its message, and while developing its character at the same time in a better way. This one I feel like it was a little bit just too much going on, and that it didn't fully all come together at the end. So that's like kind of my a long way of saying that it's not, I think, as an effective political film as I was hoping for. And another thing is that as someone, as a leftist interested in filmmaking as a way to articulate one's politics and inspire people make positive change or to inspire people to imagine a better world. I'm really ready. I'm ready for the message and the politics to go even further, because this is pretty much an extension of Sorry to Bother You's theme and idea of getting workers to raise their class consciousness and demand change through collective action, whether it's by unionizing or doing a strike, to demand and to use your power, because there's more of you than there's more workers than there are, CEOs, to use that power to demand change and withhold your labor, because labor is what we have, our only thing we can use against them, against the owners, because workers are the ones who are actually producing the products, and they're the ones extracting value from us. So if we withhold our labor, that's the only leverage we have. So that's great, and that's a great message. But I want to see at this point in this movie, basically takes that to the global scale, with connecting it to China and then connecting it at the end with all we see on the TVs, all these different strikes happening around the world. But the next step, I think, is to actually get workers in control of the production itself, and get rid of the CEO, the billionaires, the capitalist. And so I want to see. I'm eager to see Boots Riley continue in this trajectory, and hopefully get more opportunities to eventually make a movie about something more revolutionary, not just these, you could call it reformist ideas of increasing wages, increasing better working conditions, while all this still maintains the same structure, the same system, the same way of this same economy where the capitalist owns the means of production. Of course, they own everything, and they buy our labor, But what if we see a world, whether it's post-revolution or not, or during it, of the workers taking over and self-managing their own workplaces, maybe with the help of a socialist state or something, to showcase, imagine this world that goes beyond capitalism, and seeing it through the lens of a Boots Riley movie with this whimsical, colorful, surrealist elements would be really fun, and that would really, I think, movies like this, like Boosters and Sorry to Bother You, I think, are great because they do inspire people to unionize with their coworkers and to strike and everything. I think that's very easy and palatable imagery and message that I think even a lot of liberals or even potentially conservatives could get behind, who happen to be working class as well. It's an easy gateway to socialism, these ideas. But I think that I think we're ready to see something go further, to see a world where a whimsical world where the workers own the means of production, or it's more collectively owned, but it's difficult, I mean, it's difficult even to articulate all this in the context of critiquing this movie, and it's difficult even trying to discuss dialectical materialism within a sci-fi conceit in this movie. but still, making it a fun movie to watch without being having too much exposition. But but Boots Riley is the only, director, writer doing or being ambitious enough to even attempt it, from what I'm seeing, at least in contemporary movies. I don't, if there are other movies like that, please let me know about them. But yeah, that's my thoughts about I Love Boosters. I think I still think it's worth watching, and I'm probably gonna watch it again when it comes out for home release, to really get more of the nuance, because I think a lot of it happens so fast. Like I probably missed a bunch of stuff. But yeah, so many great gags. Okay, also yeah, like the break gag of them having to race to do their break on time. They're 30 seconds. Of course, again, hyperbolic exaggeration, for lunch breaks, I think it's minimum legally. Maybe it depends on different states, but I think legally you need to have at least 30-minute breaks. But even that's not enough, I think it should be a minimum an hour break. And I've definitely had work experience where I've had 30-minute breaks, and it's not the best, but you make do. And yeah, so that's a funny moment. The other another great moment was the again, introducing not so much class, but race dynamics when what's her name? Taylor Page's character, she holds her breath to lighten up her skin, and then she comes back into screen. It's a whole different actor. And to get in order to distract the clerks and workers at the shop they're stealing from. That's a great moment. That's funny. The character, the manager character, is also funny. The scene where he turns up the volume, and he can't hear the the workers, talking about how they're getting paid $48. Again, another exaggeration, but I don't think that's too far from reality, especially when you get your hours cut. But yeah, and then using all this corporate speak to massage what's going on and obfuscate what they're really doing, So he was a really great character there. A lot of great, satirical moments, a lot of fun visual moments too. The leaning tower, the leaning skyscraper. All the colors, of course. A lot of fun stuff. But yeah, I love Boosters. I like Boosters. I liked it. That's what I've been watching. What have you been watching? Have you been watching more stuff? Let me know. Let's discuss more stuff in the comments. I am gonna head out, and I'll probably be back next week for more Lestat talk. I don't know what else I'll be watching. It's gonna be a big summer. I might be doing more movie theater watching stuff. We'll see. There's also some other movies I missed out on recently. I'm gonna get back into watching soon. I'm still doing my Letterboxd stuff, so you can check out my Letterboxd if if you want to catch up on more of my thoughts, because I'm sure there's going to be some stuff I'm not going to even mention here. Like I watched Hail Mary as well, Project Hail Mary, which I didn't think that was that great. It was okay, but you know, more of my thoughts over there if you're interested. And yeah, until then, I'll see you next time. Bye bye.